וכי נפשי אס השם.
We are about to begin the chapter 6 in Tractate Shabbat, and it's one of those fascinating chapters because it's dealing with a issue of caring. I have the privilege to record today from Yerushalayim. We're just out of a shelter, and we have the privilege to do it in the really one of the Rabbanim private home with all the Talmudim. So I want to thank everyone for being here. And the subject of this perek is the Melechet Hotza'ah, which means the whole idea of the Torah tells us that we are forbidden to carry any burden on Shabbat when there is no Eruv. For example, the prohibition which we discussed earlier, carrying any burden from private domain to public domain, and vice versa. Now, since there are specific issues, for example, when there are women that need to carry their special clothing, and sometimes they want to show off to their friends, and the issue is that maybe they need to carry in public domain. Therefore, we need this special chapter, and we zoom in and we start with again page 57. Page 57, Tractate Shabbat, Perek B'Meisha. B'Meisha Yotza U'B'Mayin Ayosa. The Mishnah here asks a question: What item a woman may go out into the public domain on Shabbat, and what may not go out? Again, for those of you not familiar or far away, it's a turmoil situation now in Eretz Israel, so it's constantly, there's a red sign and people need to run to shelters, and it's all kind of things going on, so I apologize in advance, but we try to make the shiur as clear and valuable to everyone. So the Mishnah said here, yeah, I know. 1 second. The Mishnah asks here what type of tachshitim, what type of special item that usually women carry for beauty, allowed to go out, which one she cannot carry it on Shabbat. לא תצא אישה, לא בחוטי צמר, ולא בחוטי פשתן, ולא ברצועות שבראשה, ולא תטבול בהם עד שתרפס. The women may not go in the string of wool, flax or stripe, that the materials that women braid on the hair, on the head. Again, it's all relate to the idea of Hotza'ah. So let's again review the subject. The dinim of Hotza'ah, the law in regards to carry, there are many. In the previous 5 chapters we dealt with, and also in the Tractate Eruvin, with all the idea of carrying from one domain to another. Now, since we dealt in the previous chapter with the idea of animals, leman yanuach shorcha v'chamorcha, or the animals requirement, now we go to further. So here we speak about the head, which is women, Rashi said, sometimes need to take off and show to their friends, or they go in the public domain. And so especially in those days, they used to have a special way to put together those wool, flax, and stripe together. So here's the issue. The Or Zohar said that the issue is that it's part of the Melechet Boneh, which is the Melacha, the prohibition of building, and is a prohibited in the Torah, because basically when they building within their hair, it's they do some type of pulling together the pieces called kli'ah, and it's either soter or boneh. Boneh basically in a general sense, it's building. Soter is destroying. So here the whole idea is that there's a rabbinic that call it isur shvut, which is because it's similar, as the Rambam said in Hilchot Shabbat, is similar to boneh. So therefore, they make it in such a way. So that's most of the Achronim hold. So here, as the Mishnah said, Ad velot yitbol bahem, ad shetarpem. So even women need to duck themselves in a weekly day, but since it's tight in such a way together, there is the issue, because when the person needs to duck himself or the mikveh, for example, if it's a woman, they need to put the entire body. And the issue is, it's called some type of partition, separation. It's called chatzitza. The GEMARA said in Eruvin, page 4, Daf Dalet, that women need to open all those tight knots with their sometimes long hair in order to avoid any type of chatzitza between the water and their hair. So it's regardless, it's not necessarily Shabbat, it can be during the week, it's the same halacha. So here they said, velo bet totefet. So they said that the woman likewise not go out with a ornament called totefet. Velo besarvitin. Sarvitin, Rashi said later, the Gemara explained what is sarvitin, but it's basically, it's some type of a ornament. Bizman she'enan tfurin, which means if it's not tied to her head, the head covering, so she can pull it out, she show it to her friends, and then she carry it in the 4 cubit in the public domain. So therefore it's a part of the prohibition of carrying. Furthermore, they said that there's a huge difference between married women and a single woman. This leniency applied to married women, but that's not our discussion yet. We just go first over the Mishnah. Velo bekavul. They say that the woman not go out with the kavul. Kavul, they say that it's some type of wool that she carry under the head covering, l'rshut rabim, to public domain, and even she wearing it under the top, it's still clear, they still see it. Velo be'ir shel zahav. And also, she not go to Ir shel zahav is basically some type of beauty that they see the sign of Yerushalayim, which we are now. So they said that one of the things that Rabbi Akiva wish is like this type of beauty that they have tachshit, that you see the sign of Yerushalayim. They say that one of the things that we elaborate on the beauty is they put the Yerushalayim at the top of the time of happiness. So since the Beit HaMikdash destroyed, since the destruction of the temple, the sages put a prohibition against wearing those. But anyway, velo bektala. So it's katal, it's like something around the neck. Velo ben nezamim. Nezamim is something they put around the ear. But again, it was the nose rings that they used to do it in the ancient time. They use it in several books in the Tanakh, Nizmei Af. Velo betabat she'en alea chotam. Not in the ring that doesn't have the beauty, like you see some type of beauty that they make ornament around their hand. Rashi said that it make it different, makes velo memachat she'ena nekuva, and not also with the needle that is not perforated, which were merely for decorative purposes. Ve'im yatzat, however, if she went to a public domain, one of these, ena chayavet chatat, she doesn't need to bring a sin offering, because they are all considering some type of tachshitim, some type of ornament, and is not considering it as a burden. So therefore, she doesn't have any prohibition to go only the Rabbanan, only the rabbinic. So since it's a rabbinic prohibition, so that's a much more leniency. Rashi said here that this point he said it clearly. He said that maybe she pulled it out and showed it to her friend. Tosfot later in Samech Dalet in 64b elaborate what exactly apply nowadays. But anyway, to make it short, nowadays it's a big dispute between the current Achronim what they allow, what not, especially when it's the issue of a rabbinic prohibition. Such a great feeling to be outside of a shelter and be together with my son Natan. And we're back to our Nun Zayin 57a. The Gemara asks a question. Tvila man dechar shma. Since we mentioned in the Mishna the word tvila, which means we're talking about a ducking in the mikveh, and we speak in the Mishnah in regard to Hilchot Shabbat. So the big question is, what is the relationship between the ducking in the mikveh or Hilchot mikveh and the Inyanei Shabbat, the Hilchot Shabbat in the Mishnah? The Tosfot Reed is one of the commentator comment to that, and he said that it's not really a question, because since the Tana mentioned all the different aspects of involvement with the toivel, with getting into the mikveh, so therefore it's agav orchais. By the way, we mentioned that. And you see it in many sugyot that, by the way, they're digressing and mentioning other halachot. And he says that's the derech ha-gemara, that's the usually way to involve with kushya and teirutz in question and answer. The Meiri, however, disagree, and he said that it's a question because this is a halacha in yanei chatzitza, which means that there is the issue of while the woman ducking in the mikveh, if it's something that it's some type of partition or separation, and therefore is appropriate. Anyway, man dechar shna. Why we mention that here? Respond. Amar Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak amar Rabba bar Avuha, מה טעם כאמר? מה טעם לא תראה יצא אישה לא בחוטי צמר ולא בחוטי פשתן? What's the reason that the Tana in the Mishnah mentioned that this type of the chutim, the wool, and the woman not make out with the string of wool, not a string of flax? What's the reason? מפני שאמרו חכמים בכל עוד ידבול בהם עד שתרפאם. So if there is a during the week, so what happened? Women needs to go to the mikveh. So while they're going to mikveh Torah, there are certain halachot involved with ducking on the mikveh. First halacha is the idea that they have to have full body duck in the mikveh. The second one is that if there is something that is a separate, such as for example, rings, or if you have other thing that usually it's out of the body, coming out like those bracelets and other things, so they put it out. So the big question is, when exactly we hold this type of chatzitza, this type of separation, especially here. So there are some meforshim that said that this type of thing is not considering wool or flax, is not a chatzitza, it's not a separation, but not everyone agreed. He said, "V'kevan de becholot itbol b'mash terapel." So, for example, there is a woman in the mikveh called balanit, and her job is to make sure that the women are really ready to duck themselves in the mikveh, because as we said, if they have all kind of things around themselves, sometimes they do some ornament, some type of a necklace, and the nails and things like that, it's an issue that it's not ducking the entire body fully and properly. So since we have this type of issue during the week, and she needs to remove those parts in order to duck properly in the mikveh. So now we made some type of kal vachomer. We said, if you ask me, meaning we ask the woman to do that type of things during the week, so for sure we said in Shabbat, בשבת לא תצא דילמה מתרמלה, טבילה של מצווה ושרלו. So because sometimes it's unplanned, and it may turn that she planned it properly, but sometimes not. And if it's a tvilah shel mitzvah, meaning that she needs to duck herself on the proper time in a mikveh, and while she still carried this ornament around her body, since she's not allowed to go back and put together her hair with these flax or wools together, because it's some type of work. Either some rabbis said it's whole like tikkun kli, but most of the rabbis said that the fear is that she remove it, and if there's no eruv, so she can carry it in the 4 amot in Reshut Rabim, and that's violation of Torah law. So therefore, we say that that's the reason why it's part of the Mishnah, and that's the reason why we have these restrictions. Be'aminei Rav Kahana merav tikei chalilata mai. So now he asked him a question. Since you tell me that you fear about all kind of things that you carry around the body, how about hollow chains? Hollow chains, meaning that it's that she have, in those days they used to put it around her hair. It's like chutim kluim, that putting the wool part, and it's like galil chalul. It's like hole inside the big wool, and that's what Rashi said. So the question is, can she go ahead and because if you tell me that she's not allowed to carry that, because if she's removing it from her body, is carrying 4 amot in Reshut Rabim, so is that part of the gzera that we mentioned earlier or not? So Amar Lei, Rav responded and said, Arika Amar, since you're asking me a question about arig, about woven, you say, you can say kol shu arig, anything that it's woven. Lo gazru, the sages did not put a decree and didn't forbid the person, a woman, to carry it on Shabbat. Why? The key point is, since it's not tight into her hair, so it's not an issue, because the water is coming in and she doesn't need to remove it. The key point is, as long as the water touch each part of the body, so it's not considering a chatzitza. Anything that has a hole that is chalul, we say that it's not a problem. The Shach in your idea have their own opinion in that, but it's in general, most of the Meforshim said that it's fine, she can carry it, she can do it on Shabbat. So he said, "Itmarna me'aravuna b'red Rav Shua kol shehu arig lo gazru." Anything that it's considering as a woven, so the sages they did not issue a decree. Another option, v'ikad amri, amaravuna b'red Rav Yoshua, chazeina le'achvati delo kabdan alayv. This rabbi said, I saw my sisters that they are very observant, yet they never been scrupulous about taking out those type of wool from their hair while they duck in the hot water. So we learn that the water can, the key point is that when the women prepare themselves and the time that they wash, they want to make sure that the water coming in each part, and then when they duck in the mikveh, there has to be the same thing. So Rashi said here, so the conclusion that Rav Huna, Brother Rosh said that since my sisters did not hold that they should remove that while they washing their body, therefore he doesn't see any issue with that. Ma'ika benachlish on lashni. So the Gemara asks, so what's the difference between when you speak about lemaise, in practical matter, what's the difference between Rav Huna brother of Yeshua previously, or here when you allow a woman to carry a woman and carry it on Shabbat? So he said, Ika benayu ditnifan. So Rashi said here that nifan, meaning that there's something become not clear, not it's dirty. So there are some so-called nifan. It's like something that is made a gold-plated ribbons. So the Rosh hold that it's getting dirty. It's part of the issue while she immerses herself in the mikveh. So they said lehach lishna. According to the first girsa de Amar, what the Ravuna Ber Yeshua said, kol shehu arig lo gazru. Anything that is woolen, the sages did not put a decree. Hanenam arug. It's also those type of sharsherot, those type of woolen that it's a part of the arig, and then it's not considering any chatzitza when it's she dug herself in the mikveh, and she can go and go out on Shabbat. And according to that girsa that hold, the reason that the sages hold that the woman cannot, the woman should take it out before they dug themselves in the mikveh. So what? Kevan detnifa, because it became dirty. Mikpad kapda alayhu. The women are very strict to take it off before the duck in the mikveh in order not to become dirty. Why? Because what happens is the water of the mikveh, it's contained, it's not, let's face it, most of the mikvehot is not only raining water, it's combining of different items, which is there's the water, there's this, nowadays there's the chlorine and other thing that involved in the water of the mikveh. So since she's carrying this type of ornament, it may turn that it's ruined in a way the water, and also some say that her body when she come out carry this dirt that coming out of those ornaments. So key again, the big issue is that she will move it, go around on Shabbat. They go around for a month, a place that they have no eruv. And he said that nan hatam. So since we talk about chatzitza, so now the Mishna, bringing the Mishna in mikveyot, dealing with this issue. Tanya, tnanatam, ve'ilu chotzetzim ba'adam. Now we speak about a person in very general term. What exactly involved with chatzitza? First we talk about a person, just in general a person. So he said chutei tzemer. What is chutei tzemer? What did they say here?
Strings of wool.
String of wool. Thank you. Vechutei pishtan. What is chutei pishtan?
Strings of flax.
String of flax. Ve'aretzuot sheberashei abanot, which is
straps that are on the girl's head.
Straps are on the girl's head. Thank you. So Rashi said that usually the girls have this around the head, and they have that's part of the beauty. So again, the water of the mikveh come in and get to their hair. Omar Avuna v'chulan berashei abanot shaninu, which means all this list of what? Of wool and flax and everything that we mentioned. That's usually the way that the women carry it. Now, there is a question in the Meforshim, what exactly happened with the wool? If that's considering chatzitza or not. Tosfot in the Boa Matchela Hashta asked that question as well as others. But the key point is, does this considering as a chatzitza, and therefore if they have this type of hair wrap, it's part of the chatzitza when they get to the mikveh or not. So matkif la Rav Yosef lema'utei mai. When Rav Una speaks about those strings in the woman's head, he meant to say that there is others Originally, the Gemara hold that Ravuna said that usually halacha is according to him, and every time he used the word v'chulam, apply to everything. So again, we talk about tefillah, we talk about Shabbat. So we ask a question what he meant. If you talk about string around her neck, that's not considering the chatzitza. Udemai. So how these strings are made? If you tell me it's a flax, so what's the issue of them carry it? Hashta rach al gabe kashe, even that is soft on the top of the hair that is strong. Chotzetz, which means again when the water coming out and dig in the hair, it's some type of chatzitza because they don't reach each part of the body. Rach al gabe rach mibaya. So if you have a soft wool that it's so you're going to tell me that that's an issue. Usually you tighten it in such a way that it's holded. Hashta kashe al gabe kashe. If you tell me that the flax that is very tight on the hair, chotzetz, it's avoiding the water to coming in. Kashe al gabe rach mibaya. So you told me now that if you have hard string on the top of the soft flesh of the neck, it's necessary to say that they are interposed. So again, here, the Maise, the big question is, even the one that is strong at the top of the one is soft, it's some type of the chatzitza. So he asked, do we separate? Do we say that is a real different between the first part and the second part? So Elamar Rav Yosef said that no. What we're talking here is Hainu Tama de Ravuna lefi she'en isha choneket et atzma. So let me give you some word of introduction. What's involved here? Soon you see that in the time of the Gemara, it was a different way of dress, a different way of behavior. In those days, women basically hold beauty, fattening was considering some part of beauty. So basically, isha choneket et atzma, meaning that the women put it around their neck, and therefore it's act. Soon you see it's act of beauty. So again, if they wrap it loosely, so it's fine. So she can have the water. But if she tied it very hard, so she basically choking herself, and it's an issue because again it's some type of chatzitza. Rav Yosef, habanot yotzot lechutin shebozneim. Young girls can go out to public domain with a string around the ears. Okay, but they don't hold this big part, like we call it scholchim, it's a big part. They did it in the woman hair. Now, what is a chutin sheboznehem? So when the girls were very young, they used to put a hole in their part of the ear, bottom part of the ear, because when they grew older, they can put inside some type of earrings, right? But when they are very little, they didn't do it, right? So what did they do in order to avoid that this hole? They put this hole when they are a little girl. They want to make sure that they hold this for their life until they reach the age of maturity. So they put a string there, and those strings they keep it all these years, and they're allowed to go with those strings on their earring on Shabbat, even they don't have yet an earring. However, chavakim shebetzaverhem, which means that they made it around the neck, as we said, to make it beauty, that the women used to do it. So he said, that's different, they're not allowed. So the Gemara asked, Vi amart, en isha choneket atzma, if you tell me that women not hold it very strongly in order to avoid a feeling of like choking, חבקים שבצוואריהם המיילו, so why the Tana forbade the women, the young women, to go on Shabbat with this type of string around the neck, if it's not the issue of chatzitza, so it's not part of the Gzeira, it's not part of the decree of the sages, and it's not an issue. So the Gemara responds, and they said, Amar Ravina. So as a result, Ravina said, and he said, Hacha bekatla askina. So we just turned the page 57b. Hacha bekatla askinan. Here we are dealing with the board, which means they have this type of apron that they carry, the women carry when they're digging. The isha choneket et atzma, that women usually put it around the neck. דניחא לה שתראה כבעלת בשר. A woman wants to look fat. What does that mean? So in the time of the Talmud, women used to carry a special apron that is called katla. And what's the reason? It's basically to protect the body while they're eating. Now it was holding around the neck, and the reason, because in those days, fat was considered beautiful, right? So the women used to do it on purpose so people can, appreciate their fattening. Anyway, that was what the Rashi said here. I read to you Rashi. וקושרת הרצועה סביב צווארה, she hold this string around her neck, וחונקת את עצמה בחוזק, she hold it tight around her neck, כדי שתראה בשרה בולטת, that her fattening of her body looks, ותראה בעלת בשר, that she looks heavy, fat, right? ומתוך שהרצועה חלקה ורחבה אינה מזיקתה, because it's light, it doesn't hurt her. So that's the reason why we're not consider that as a chatzitza, and it's not the issue of her carrier, right? Because when we use the Mishna the ktala, so it's one of the ornament that women are not supposed to go out on Shabbat. But here it's different. The Tosfot said that usually women take it and show pride to their friends, and they show in a sense, when she holds it very tight around her neck, the only time she needs to take it is to duck in the mikveh. Otherwise, it's part of the of prideness. So the fear is that she take it off for the ducking in the mikveh, and then she forget about it and she didn't put it back, and then she carry in a 4 amot in Reshut Rabim. רבי יהודה אומר, של צמר ושל שיער אין חוצצים מפני שהמים באים. And that's very important what Rabbi Yehuda said. Rabbi Yehuda said that for this, what did he say? Flack? What did he say?
That strings of wool, strands of hair, do not interpose the tvilah, because the water reaches through them.
Which means, since the water reach out of them, very nice. So so it's not an issue to even duck with this. Now, אמר רב יוסף, אמר רב יהודה, אמר שמואל, הלכה כרבי יהודה בחוטי שיער. Which means that הלכה כרבי יהודה אמר שמואל, that it's not considering a what? A chatzitza. Now, Abaye asked a question. He said, אמר לי Abaye, הלכה מכלל דפליגי. Which means, when you use the word halacha, what you meant? That someone disagree, right? So who is the one who disagree? The Tanna Kama didn't mention that in the list of things that considering a chatzitza. וכי מאליו דשמין מתנא קמא דהרי בחוטי שיער, יונה מלואה במיירי. So if you tell me that Tanna Kama speak about the hair, so here Rabbi Yehuda did not speak about that. So he said, "V'dilma kishem kamalu." So you can tell me that the sages, which is basically the first Tana, not speak about a string of wool. And the reason that Yehuda mentioned that is kishem, that the same ki heicha demoduti li bechutei se'ar, or dunam bechutei se'ar, the same way as they agree with me in regard to brand of hair, so the same way they agree with me with what? With wool, right? So the same way, meaning that both of ways it's not considering a chatzitza. Itmar Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rav Shmuel, this is already Amoraim, that's much later. They said Modim Chachamim, which is Tanakama, agree LeRabbi Yehuda bechutei se'ar. They hold the same Rabbi Yehuda in what?
Strands of hair.
That what?
That's allowed.
Allow, which means it's not considering as a chatzitza, right? And that's what the Sfat Emet said. That's basically halacha k'Rabbi Yehuda. Tanena me'achei, chutei tzemer chotzetzin. Chutei tzemer, it's considering chatzitza. Chutei se'ar enam chotzetzin. That's Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, shel tzemer shel se'ar and chotzetzin, both hair and wool is not considering a chatzitza. Omar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Matidin Dam Medaika. We learn from the Mishnah further on in page 64 that said the Katane, Isha Yotza Isha, women allowed to go on Shabbat with what? Bechutei se'ar. What is chutei se'ar?
Strands of hair.
Strands of hair that coming, the woman put it together, hold it and tighten it in the hair. Bein mishela, regardless if these come from her original hair, bein mishel chaverta. Sometimes women using a hair of
A different woman,
their friends, right? Mani, who is the Tana that learned this Mishnah? Ileima Rabbi Yehuda. If you tell me that this is the Mishnah according to Rabbi Yehuda, so why we say that the Mishnah hold that the woman can go with a hair afilu chutei tzemer nami, that even with the flax they're also allowed to go. El alav rabbanani. You have to say that it's according to the sages, right? And therefore, ushma mina bechutei se'ar lo plige ishma mina. So we learn from that Tanakama did not dispute Rabbi Yehuda in regards to the hair, and he agreed that it's not considering a chatzitza and shma mina. Now it's a general rule you should know that every time they use in GEMARA like tuvta, it's refutation, or shma mina. They said 2 times the same thing, it means that's the conclusion, that's the last word. The Rashba said that there is GEMARA in Nida that said that if it was 2 nimot of se'ar, two type of a string, it's not considering a chatzitza, but 3 yes. So the most of the Meforshim said that holding more than 3. V'lo betotefet. Women should not go with totefet. How they translate it totefet is like totafot, is like tefillin, right? What do they say totefet?
It's like an ornament.
Ornament, alright. My totefet, what type of tachshit of beauty is totefet? Amar Rav Yosef, chumarta diktifta.
Packet of spices.
Okay, so this, why? Because in those days they used to have some type of amulet, kamea. You heard the word kamea, Mr. Kamea. They hold like amulet around the body, and it was like for protection. People used to have it in order protection against
from the evil eye.
Evil eye, that's it. So the Tana said that the person should not go with that in Shabbat, right? Rabbeinu Hananel said that it was those women that carry, it's called in Ivrit margaliot, that they carry all kind of amulet for against evil eye. Why? It's charms and things like that. They believe in a certain stones that it's avoiding evil eye. Anyway, so that's the idea. So Amale Abaye. What's the question Abaye asked? If you tell me that this amulet, it's it's a protection against evil eye. So if you have a kamiya mumche, if you have amulets that made by an expert, so if a kamiya is made by an expert, you're allowed to go on Shabbat, right?
Right.
In those days, people were sick even, used to carry that. Right?
Right.
So therefore, if it's considering a mumche, it's made by a specialist, an expert. ולא בתותפת, מהי תותפת? אמר רב יוסף חומרתא דכתיבתא. So the Mishnah said that the women may not go out with the ornament that called totefet. I assume that some of you may recall the totafot we said in Shema. So totefet, they use the word a packet of spices to ward off the evil eye. What does that mean? So as we explained for those who just walk in, there is several concepts when it's come to evil eye. There are those who hold that if it's a kamiya mumche, that if it's written in a amulet that was written by an expert, then it's fine, you can carry it on Shabbat. Here we speaks about some type of knot that it's in carrying women on the neck, and it has some type of a protection against evil eye, but it's not the same quality as the fully prepared. Abaye asked a question, so if that's the case, we said that in Shabbat, if you have something that's made by an expert that is kamiya mumche, so fine, so you can permit it to an effective that you can move it on Shabbat. So the GEMARA concluded, in those days, the women have at the top of the head some type of ornament, and it's called a glided hairnet that hold the hair in place. So that's the story, and because of that, apuzinu, they put it on a forehead, and that's different. Rashi said that as a result, they use it for those type of occasions, and it's not really the same category as a kamiya mumche, as a some type of amulet that made by an expert. Again, for those who are not familiar, in those days they used to carry it for sick people or other people who just wanted to have some type of protection against evil eye. The women can go with a hat. They carry a hat, and that hat, even that it has some string made out of gold, so they carry it around it, and they call it totefetu sarvitina kvuimba. So they have this type of a faceted in a haircut, and they hold it. The assumption is that in public she's not going to show off her hair, and it's not an issue of modesty, and therefore because of that they allow. Tosfot here elaborate on that, and he said that that it's not just for beauty, it's something that you really use it in day by day. But anyway, the way that it's appeared in the Braita here, they speak about something that we're not so concerned, because it's not women not to take it off. Ezo totefet, ve'ezo sarviti. Now we zip in and we want to know what is considering totefet and which we're considering a sarvitin. Amar Rabbi about totefet hamukefet la me'ozen le'ozen. Totefet is which goes around her forehead from ear to ear. So Rashi said that it's very similar to the golden teats that the high priest used to have at the top of his forehead, and the place that we put in the tefillin, and he walked ear to ear. So Rabbeinu Hanan hold the same as the Yerushalmi. He said that the same way, by juxtaposition, a place that we wearing a head tefillin, women used to have that type of ornament. Sarvitin hamegiin la ad lechayea. Sarvitin is the kishutin, is something that for beauty that women wrap it around the hair, and they go in the side up to the cheek. If you look at the pictures of the 16th century, old movies and things. You see those type of things that they carry both sides. And the Gemara added and they said, Amar Avuna, עניות עושים אותן של בני צבעונים, עשירות עושים אותן של כסר וחזר. It was, even in those days, a different status of people. So in that sense, it was a poor woman and a rich one. So the poor one used to have some type of colorful, they said that the type of color materials. So that's, in a sense, is a simple. Wealthy women make them with silver and gold, so it show an act of status. So now, what's the difference? So Ritva explained that it's appeared that a rich woman, someone who's considering wealthy, she can go with something that the poor one wearing those colorful thing, because it's not in her dignity and we're not concerned that she's taking it off and show it to her friends. Tosfot Rosh hold absolutely the opposite. Because it's important by the poor women, so therefore they forbid to everyone, including the rich one. And that's basically Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim in Shin Gimel, that he holds the same manner. Velo bekavul. So the Mishnah said that the women should not go on Shabbat with a kavul. Kavul, in a simple way, it's the Gemara said, Eini yodea ma'u ikavla de'avdatnan aval kipa shel tzimar shapir dame. We're not sure what does that mean, kavul. One said that it was a seal of slave, that they put it as a sign of being a substitute. So in other words, the maid cannot go in public on Shabbat, but something that's made of wool, and women under the head is like make it as a ornament, something for beauty, shapir dame. So we hold that it's okay for her to wear it. Or dilma kippah shel tzemer tnan, kippah shel tzemer tnan, which means we are forbidden to go out in the public domain, even something that's made out of wool, because again, she take it out in order to show it to her friends, but without have a issue of modesty. But kol sheken kavla de'avda, and for sure a maid forbidden to go in the public on Shabbat. There are several discussions over the issue, particularly with the maid on Shabbat. Either you said kavul, it's really kippah shel tzemer, something that's made out of wool, or we hold the way that some others, that it's not necessarily, it can go other way, that it's can go the way that the Tosfot hold here, that is not just a people, is also a status. Amar Rabbi Abahu, so Rabbi Abahu concluded and he said, Mistabra keman de'amar kippah shel tzemer tnan, which means that the Tana speaks about what the women carried, and not only the maid, but all the women carry it. So in other words, we don't differentiate between maid and regular women as far as they carrying. So the same Braita we find in other location that said the same thing, that the women can go with kavul and with istema, which means that they can go both. But here we speak about courtyard, but not Reshut HaRabim, not the public domain. Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar Omer, Raf bekavul Reshut HaRabim. Shimon ben Lazar said, no. This apply also to go with kavul to a public domain. Klal Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar. Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar bring a very clear statement, and he said as follows: Kol shehu lemata min hasvacha yotz'in bo. Kol shehu lemala min hasvacha en yotz'in bo. Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar stated a principle: anything that is worn beneath the hairnet, a woman may go out in public domain within, since a woman will not uncover her hair even to show off an ornament while in public domain. Anything that is worn over a hairnet, like a ornament hat, a woman may go out with it. So what we learn from this context, the proximity of the halacha with the kavul, with what Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar said. So basically, Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar allowed to go to public domain, but if it's made out of servant, so you cannot go even to a chatzer, to some yard. Now, if you remember earlier, we used the word istema. Now we go to the second part, which is my istema. What is istema means? What's the idea of istema? Amar Rabbi Abahu, bizyone. Rabbi Elazar said istema is bizyone. So my bizyone. So he just to say a statement, we don't know what he meant. What type of ornament is bizyone? Amar Abaye, Amarav kalya paruchei. He said it's a small hat or ribbon used to get a hair that protrude from the hairdress, which means that it's some type of mitznefet that the women put it, but not the entire hair. You see nowadays a very similar situation that they have some type of partially cover, in a sense that it's cover the hair. They said in those days they used to have this under the head, and it's called karlea pruche because it's monaat, it's kalya, it's avoiding the hair from coming out. That's what Rashi said. So the sages forbade to go to public domain with this. Why? Because they're afraid again that she's taking it off to show her friends. And but when it's come to the yard, the chatzer, they allow it. So in regard to halacha, we'll discuss later because this matter has a lot practical halachot. Tanu Rabbanan. Let's conclude the shiur. Tanu Rabbanan. 3 דברים נאמרו באיסטמה. There are 3 things were said in regard to istema. 1. אין בה משום כלאיים. There is no prohibition of mixing of diverse kind, wool and linen with it, because the isur, the prohibition, says specifically over wool and linen that is tvuyim, but istema they made out of leved, that it's not tavui, that it's not coming together. So that's one point. The second one, remember the whole concept. Remember that we discussed shatnez. So when we speak about shatnez, is a shua and tavui. It's mesorak and lechutim. So it's combination of the two. Number 2, ve'ena metam'a benega'im, which means they have a tzarat gadim that it's applied to the garments. So it's only applied to something that it's combined with the two. And number 3, ve'en yotz'im ba l'rshut harabim. A woman may not go out to a public domain on Shabbat. Why? Again, you all know already the reason. The fear is that she's taking it off to show their friends. She go around the 4 amot, 4 cubit in the public domain. And that's what we said earlier in the previous braita. Mishum Rabbi Shimon amru. So we said the name of Rabbi Shimon, another important halacha. Now we're going to the next page to just conclude the shiur. He said, Ein ba mishum atrot kalot. So he hold that that kala at the time of the chuppah she allowed to wear this bridal crown because the istema, it's not part of the sages forbid as part of the Chorban Abayit. You remember the Rashi we said at the end of the Sota, he said in 49, he said that Bepolmos Olafas Paspianos. So one of the decree they put is atarot chatanin, atarot kalot. They forbids all kind of things. It's an act of mourning over destruction of Beit HaMikdash. But this part, it's not considering atarot kalot. What? So that's the whole idea. Ritva said, it's a good question. Ritva said that she allowed to make herself beauty in istma, in that sense, for the wedding itself. But the way that they put atara, something that carry very beautiful, ostentatious ornament, that's they put the restrictions since the destruction of everything. So again, it's simple things, it's fine, but something that it's like very, tawdry, very ostentatious. The Yemenite Jews does that. But again, here they hold that it's not considering atarot kalot. Now let's go a few halachot before we conclude this shiur. we studied today in the page 57 several important halachot. The first halacha we study that lo tetze isha lo bechutei tzemer. So this is Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 303. He said, it is prohibited for women to go out with strings and ribbons on her head on Shabbat, because she might unite them or might fall when she may come to carry them in her hand. If they are braided into her hair, it's permitted. That's the Rosh and Aran. There are authorities that who have prohibited going out on Shabbat with strings and ribbons, even if they are braided on her hair. And then we said, "Velo titbol b'hem ad sheterapem." A woman may not immerse in the ritual bath in a mikveh with a string of wool, flax, or ribbons in her hair, unless she loosened, because they what? Mikveh ragil. Ducking in a regular mikveh, right? Between the water and the hair, if they are braided into her hair, even loosening them in the ineffective way. That's the Rambam Ilchot Mikvehot, chapter 2. Velo betabat, not with the ring. It is prohibited for a woman to go out into the public domain on Shabbat wearing a ring with a seal. If she does so, she is liable. It is prohibited for a woman to go out even wearing a ring without a seal. However, if she does so, she is exempt in ruling of Shulchan Aruch, citing one of the halachic authority that nowadays a woman may go out into a public domain on Shabbat wearing a ring with the seal, because a woman ordinarily wears the ring with the seal. It's considering an ornament. So again, it's one of those halachot that we need to ask. What? Next one, we said, כל שהוא הריג דתניפה לפי שאין אישה חונקת אל עצמה. A woman is permitted to go out with ribbon tied around her neck. She does not tighten them excessively around her neck, so she not strangle herself. So that's a important halacha. And now we said in regard to kamea. So we said that it is permitted to go out on Shabbat wearing an effective amulet. An effective amulet is defined as one who was tested and found to have healed 3 people. In other words, if you see something that healed 3 people, then you know that this is an amulet that it's good and have already healed 3 people.
נפשי es Hashem